Hi, I'm Movie Man. I'm an octopus who reviews movies, and today's review is going to be on. Oh, Abigail. This is a movie which I was pretty looking forward to. I've heard about it and I thought it sounded pretty interesting, and it looks like pretty good from the trailers. This is being directed by Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, also known as Radio Silence, and they were of course the duo behind such films as Ready or Not, Scream 5 and Scream 6, all of which I have really enjoyed. So yeah, it was cool seeing them, come out with another horror film, and this time it's like this one about Vampire Girl. So it looks like quite an interesting film from the trailers, and I had seen that it had been getting some very good reviews. So yeah, I looked forward to checking it out, but I went to see it for myself yesterday as of recording this video. So now that I've seen the movie for myself, what are my thoughts? In my opinion, I really liked this film. Yeah, I have to say, I really enjoyed Abigail. I honestly had a great time with this. And I know this year got off to a rough start in terms of horror, and there's still those other two horror movies which I have yet to review. But the first Omen came out there back 2 weeks ago now, and yeah, that was definitely a major step up for the horror in 2024, and now I'm glad to say that we have yet another good horror outing. So yeah, with the first Omen 2 weeks ago and now Abigail, I think it's safe to say that horror hopefully is starting to get back on track. But anyway, so to get into my thoughts on Abigail, to start things off, the cinematography in this movie is actually really good in my opinion. I think it's a well shot movie. I think there are some solid shots in this film. I like the look of the movie. It makes sense that this film is from the same directors as Ready or Not, because it actually did look a bit like Ready or Not at times. With kind of the whole decor, like kind of the way the movie shot, like in this mansion. It did genuinely look like Ready or Not at times. But yeah, it's a well shot movie. There's some pretty good shots in the film, so I say the cinematography overall is pretty good. The editing in the movie, I think, is actually very solid. Like, I don't think it's amazing editing, but nonetheless, it is a genuinely well edited movie. So then we get to the pace in the movie. Now, I mean, the film has kind of a moderate runtime. The film is an hour and 49 minutes, which, interestingly enough, it has the same runtime as the last movie which I reviewed, Civil War. Yeah, and like, it kind of relatively felt like the same runtime as Civil War, but I felt this movie kind of went a bit slowly. Like, it kind of had a bit of a slow enough pace. Well, during specific scenes, I think the pacing gets a little more fast, like during kind of some of the chase sequences or some of the action sequences, but overall, it kind of seems to go at kind of a slow enough pace. It doesn't really go very quickly. I don't really mind this though. I think the film actually does a very solid job with its pacing. Where like you know, it does make some good time for like character interactions. You kind of get a bit of banter between all the group. Yeah. So I don't think the pacing is absolutely amazing, but with that being said, I do think the movie did a really solid job with it. So yeah, the pacing in the movie is very good. The sound and music in this film, I think the movie has a solid score. Again, it's absolutely amazing, but you know, it is a good score nonetheless. I like how we get to hear like iterations of the Dracula theme, which I guess is kind of, you know, like the theme music for Dracula, if you know what I'm talking about. You'll hear it in the trailer. We get like iterations of it in the film. I think the movie does a good job with it. Yeah, it's a solid score. I don't think it's amazing, but it is still very good, and I did like the song that they played during the end credits. So overall, I think the sound and music in the movie is pretty good. Now then we get to the characters and the performances from the cast. Now, starting things off, we have pretty much the entire group of kidnappers. Now, I won't really talk about each and every one of them individually, but what I will say is I think they're all like really fun characters, and they're entertaining to watch, even if they're not like necessarily the best people. They're still very entertaining characters to watch. And like, while we don't really know much about them throughout most of the film, like, we kind of do start to learn some things about them, like kind of before the third act. They're not really the most in-depth characters or the most likable, but nonetheless, they are all very entertaining to watch. And I think pretty much all of the cast, they all do genuinely very well in their respective roles. I think it's safe to say pretty much everyone is having a pretty fun time working on the film. Yeah, so I think the performances from the cast are very good. Now, if I have to pick a favorite amongst the group, I think I would have to go with Frank, who is the ex-cop character. Like, I actually found him to be genuinely a really fun character. Like, oh my god, like, he was probably the funniest character in the movie. Like, his character got the most laughs out of me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was genuinely laughing at a lot of his dialogue in the movie. Yeah, and as Dan Stevens, he's definitely a lot of fun in this role. Funny how just some weeks ago he was in Godzilla Kong the New Empire, and now he's in this movie just weeks later. And yes, while they're both actually quite different roles, they're both genuinely very entertaining. Oh, by the way, in case you guys are wondering, yes, I have seen Godzilla Kong the New Empire, but you'll have to stay tuned for my review on that one. But anyway, so yeah, I liked these characters, and my favourite of them was Frank. He was really the most entertaining character in the film. We also have a small role in this from Giancarlo Esposito. And he stars in this as, like, he's kind of the guy who tells them that they have to watch over Abigail for 24 hours. Now, he is not in this movie a whole lot, as you can probably guess from the trailers. He has a fairly small role in the film, but during the brief scenes where he is on screen, he's definitely a screen presence, alright. Yeah, he's very good as always. And finally, we have the titular character herself, Abigail. And she was honestly a really fun villain. Like, oh yeah, she was really fun. She was genuinely quite menacing as well. She kind of reminded me a bit of Megan in a way. She even kind of danced a bit like Megan did. But that being said, she is genuinely really fun as her own character. And I think Alisha Weir is really good. I honestly find it kind of hilarious that this was the same girl who played Matilda like a year and a half ago. Yeah, she was genuinely really good in this role. But yeah, so overall, I really liked all the characters, and the entire cast were genuinely a lot of fun. But yeah, so anyways, the plot of the movie, goes out like, they kidnapped the girl, and they have to hold her ransom for 24 hours, until her wealthy father shows up. But then it turns out that the girl is actually a vampire. Not really a spoiler because they tell you that in the trailers that she's a vampire. I've seen some people say that like maybe it would be better if the trailers like didn't tell you that she was a vampire. I can understand if people think that, but honestly I don't really mind it very much. It's a fairly straightforward plot with like an interesting twist. It definitely sounds like a movie which could make for a fun time. And yeah, the movie pretty much delivers on that. Like, I mean, this movie is pretty much it's meant to be like a very like kind of an entertaining horror movie. But yeah, it pretty much delivers on that. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of perfect that they got Radio Silence to direct this. I mean, like, with some of their previous horror movies, they kind of proves that they were the right duo to direct this film. And they pretty much delivered on this one, like, they made this genuinely a very entertaining movie. Like, I was laughing a good bit throughout the film, especially from some of Frank's lines. And yeah, it's a very entertaining horror film. But just like some of their other films, but also just like some of their other horrors, this movie is pretty gory. Like, there's a good bit of blood in the movie, alright. The kills in here are pretty gory. The film pretty much earns its 16 rating. And yeah, I think it pretty much does deliver on the gore, and for the most part, I think the kills in here are actually pretty good, and they're gory and stuff. And yeah, it's a very entertaining horror film. I think it pretty much balances the comedy and the horror aspects really well. Yeah, overall, it just makes for a genuinely very entertaining horror movie. So yeah, the plot of the movie is very good. The movie pretty much did what it needed to do. It told the story in a really fun way. Overall, it made for a genuinely really fun horror movie. So in terms of the narrative structure, the basic plot is that, we have a bunch of these kidnappers and they're basically trying to survive. Little vampire girl. That's pretty much the basic outline of the plot. Like, the movie doesn't really delve a bit too much into other things. Like, I mean, again, as I said before, the third act, we get a bit of depth about some of these characters, but yeah, for the most part, it pretty much is kind of this one narrative. But nonetheless, the movie did a very good job with it. Like, it was genuinely a very entertaining horror film. It made for a solid narrative. It was done very well. It was entertaining, and it pretty much did follow its formula really well. Even if it only kind of ventured into other things a little bit, it still overall did a really good job with its one narrative. So I think the narrative structure overall is really solid. So overall, Abigail is a really good film, in my opinion. I have to say I really enjoyed it. It was shot well. It had decent music. The characters were all fun. The cast were all having a lot of fun. It was gory. It was entertaining. A funny movie. Yeah, overall, it's just a really fun horror movie. A really fun time. It's gory and yet funny at the same time. If you're a fan of comedy horror, if you're into vampire horror, like, if you want something that's pretty gory, or if you want something that's pretty entertaining, I would say this is definitely worth checking out. As on both aspects, it pretty much delivers. Yeah, it's a very entertaining, gory film. If you're into horror, if you want to watch this is definitely worth checking out. So with that, I'm going to give Abigail an 8 out of 10. So with that, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.